Hello and welcome back to the Analyst by Vajiram and Ravi. In today's session, we will discuss some of the most anticipated and important topics for your upcoming prelims and mains examinations, drawn from today's articles in The Hindu and The Indian Express newspapers. In our first topic, we will examine the current status of fertilizer subsidies in India. We will explore its impact on agriculture and the challenges government faces in sustaining this subsidy. In our second topic, we will look into various aspects of ongoing tuberculosis burden in India, reasons behind this challenge, as well as the necessary steps to reduce this burden. Then in our simplified section, we will take up 5 articles and we will try to explain them in simplest language possible to enrich your understanding of the newspapers. Additionally, we have also incorporated some prelims pointers which is going to be very crucial for your upcoming prelims 2025 examination. So have a look on them also and stay tuned. So our first topic is status of fertilizer subsidy in India. The context of this topic is that the Standing Committee on Fertilizers warns that the underfunding of the nutrient-based subsidy can lead to issues to the farmers. It can lead to less availability of the fertilizers in the market, and they are seeking additional funds for the fertilizer sector. And this particular topic pertains to syllabus of your GS paper 3, agriculture, direct and indirect farm subsidies. Now, what exactly is a subsidy? So, subsidy is essentially a form of government intervention where state tries to provide financial assistance, and mainly it tries to incentivize a certain kind of behavior, or they want to support a specific sector in the economy. For example, let's suppose government wants to support the non-renewable energy sector, and that is the reason they are providing subsidy while you are going to purchase any of the EV vehicles, because they want to support that particular sector. And similarly, government is providing subsidy in the fertilizer sector, in the agriculture sector, to support the farmers so that their input cost, that is the cost they has to pay on the inputs of various agricultural crops, that may reduce and the farmers' profitability remuneration can be increased. Now, it can be categorized into different subheads. For example, the food subsidy, the PDS, that is Public Distribution System, which has been mandated by National Food Security Act 2013, under which we have the priority household as well as the Antyodaya Anna Yojana beneficiaries, that is the poorest of the poor, who are getting 35 kg grains, whereas the priority household are getting 5 kg food grains every month. Now, that is all the money that government has to pay to ensure the supply of that PDS distribution that will come under the food subsidy. Then we have the fertilizer subsidy. We have the subsidy related to the petroleum products. We have the subsidy related to the LPG, power sector subsidy, etc. Also, we can categorize it into 2 other subheads, that is the direct subsidy as well as the indirect subsidy. So, in the direct subsidy, the incentives is directly being provided to the farmers in the form of cash or in the form of loan waivers, etc., where the beneficiary is the farmer is the direct beneficiary. Whereas in the case of indirect subsidies, the subsidies are being provided through reduced input prices or other forms of support. For example, when the government is providing subsidy on the seeds, when government is providing subsidy on the irrigation, when government is providing subsidy on the fertilizer, then it is leading to a reduced cost of that particular product, and which is helping the farmer in saving some income on the inputs that he will be using on the agriculture. So what exactly is the status of fertilizer subsidy as of now? As per the revised estimate of 2024-25 financial year, it is around 1,71,299 crores, and for the budgetary estimate of the financial year 25-26, it is 1,67,887. This reduction that we are witnessing in the allocation for the fertilizer subsidy is the particular thing why the Standing Committee on the Fertilizer have gave their apprehensions that it can lead to issues in the agriculture sector. Now, what are the mechanism of the fertilizer subsidy? That how actually the fertilizer subsidy is being provided to the farmers. So, under the fertilizer subsidy, we have 2 regimens. One is the urea subsidy and second is the nutrient based subsidy. The one important thing that you need to remember for your examination is that the nutrient based subsidy is not applicable on the urea fertilizer. So, what exactly exactly is the regimen that we are following in the urea based subsidy? Here the urea is sold in the market at the maximum retail price which is fixed by the government of India itself. As of now, the current maximum retail price is rupees 242 per 45 kg of bag, and it excludes the neem coating charges as well as the taxes that will be applicable. Now, but this particular mandated cost based on which it is being provided in the market is not the actual cost of the production. So the companies who are producing these fertilizer may have to shed some of the cost for the raw materials, transportations, logistics, etc. All the costs that they are incurring on the production of that particular fertilizer, including the profits of that company. When we will deduct that with this mandated maximum retail price of this urea, the difference between two will be given to these fertilizer companies as the urea subsidy. What does I mean? But let's suppose for producing this 45 kg of urea bag, let's suppose the particular company who was producing the fertilizer incurred a cost of 1000 rupees per bag. Okay, but the maximum price is mandated at rupees 242 per kg. So the difference between 1000 and 242 will be given as the subsidy to the fertilizer manufacturing company. Another point that you need to remember for your prelims examination as well as mains examination, that there is no as a subsidy that is directly being provided to the farmers in their bank account as direct benefit transfer. Rather, both urea subsidy and the nutrient based subsidy is being provided to the fertilizer company. Okay? And this covers the differences between the delivered cost of the urea minus the net market realization, that is the estimated cost of the particular asset. What should be the estimated cost? That includes the cost of production, transportation, profits, etc. So the difference between the delivered cost of the urea to the farmer minus the estimated value of the actual production including profit is the particular difference will be provided to the fertilizer company as the subsidy. Now how this is being provided, what is the mechanism that we are following? That there are various retail shops which are providing these fertilizer bags to the farmers. These retail shops have point of sale machines. Okay, the POS machines are provided to these retail shops. Now the farmer who needs this particular bag of the fertilizer will come with his or her Aadhaar card. He will tell his or her Aadhaar card details. He will use his or her biometrics on that point of sale machines based on how many of bags he or she needs, and then it will this particular information, that the biometrics that was used of that farmer will go on to a portal which is connected with this POS machine, and government will get an idea that okay, this much amount of bags was sold at this point of sale machine on this retail shops. With the help of this, whatever the selling happens or whatever the particular trade happened at that point of sale machine on that retail shops, these fertilizer companies are going to get based on the sale of that fertilizer bags which are happening, and every week they are getting these subsidies these fertilizer companies are getting these subsidies. So what here is happening, that point of sale is happening and the government is getting the data on the portal, and based on that they are supplying that subsidy to the fertilizer company. Now another regime, that is the nutrient based subsidy regime, where this was launched in 2010 by the Department of Fertilizers, Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers. So this nutrient based subsidy is applicable to all other fertilizer except the urea, means diammonium phosphate. This nutrient based subsidy will be applicable. The MOP, the fertilizer, there again this nutrient based subsidy will be applicable. Here this subsidy is the particular bags of this fertilizer are provided at subsidized rate based on the nutrient content of that particular fertilizer. For example, in 1 kg of DAP, what is the contribution or what is the component of the nitrogen, what is the component of phosphate, and what is the component of potash? Based on that component in that 1 kg of the fertilizer, based on the nutrient content in that 1 kg of fertilizer, these nutrient based subsidy will be provided. And if the particular fertilizer has some other micronutrients, for example sulfur, zinc, boron, iron, manganese, etc., then they can receive some additional benefits. And this per kg kilogram nutrient subsidy is fixed, and it is fixed for each nutrient, that is for nitrogen, phosphorus and potash, sulfur, etc. So what exactly is the objective of this nutrient based subsidy or the overall subsidy regime in the fertilizer? First of all, to ensure the food security, that is the availability of the food grains, affordability of the food grains, as well as the accessibility of the food grains. Also, it tries to improve the agricultural productivity, which is very abysmal if we talk about in the comparison with some developed countries like USA, Brazil, or the China, the developing countries, that their agricultural productivity per hectare is very good as compared to ours. So this fertilizer subsidy, that is the proper availability of the fertilizer, also going to help in ensuring that there is proper availability of the fertilizer, that will also help in ensuring there is robust agricultural productivity. Also, it promotes the balanced fertilizer application, that is the distorted or skewed fertilizer use that we are doing, that this particular subsidy regime is also going to help in balancing this need. How it is happening? That why government has shifted towards this nutrient based subsidy regime is one of the reason for that is that initially here what we have seen, the cost of the production and the difference between the mandated price was being provided to the particular company. But what if there is a company who is deliberately inflating their cost of production because of the outdated technologies that they are using, obsolete technologies that they are using? So when government has shifted towards this nutrient based subsidy regime, it is motivating the fertilizer companies to shift towards newer technology that can help them in saving their cost of production, saving or decreasing their cost of production, that can save their money, because here the per kg nutrient subsidy is fixed. So whatever their cost of production is, that is not the concern of the government. Government is going to give them subsidy only based on the nutrient content in per kg. So with the help of this nutrient based subsidy regime, government is trying to shift these companies towards newer technology. This subsidy you can relate with a same form of example that you can relate in our childhood, that what our parents were saying, that if you will study for 4 hours, we can allow you to go outside and you can play 2 hours. Okay, that is the kind of incentives that they were giving, because they wanted that we can study properly, we should study properly. So the incentive was that if we will study, then we will be allowed to play for 2 hours. So similarly here, what government is doing, the government, to increase the productivity, to ensure there is proper supply of fertilizers as well as productivity, because government wants to do work on this direction, or government want to promote this particular productivity as well as the food security, and that is the reason they are providing that incentive to the farmers overall, or for the overall fertilizer sector. Now, what are the issues that are related with the fertilizer subsidies? First important is the overuse of the fertilizers, which is leading to soil degradation, environmental concerns, as well as the water pollution. For example, the ideal NPK ratio, that is nitrogen, phosphorus and the potassium ratio, that should be followed, that is the 4:2:1. Now here the prevailing use, that is the ratio of the nitrogen, phosphorus and potash that we are using as of now, as per the various estimates of the government, it is 8:3:2.4:1. Means we are overusing the urea based fertilizers, that is the nitrogen based fertilizers. So because of this skewed use towards the urea or the overuse of the urea, it is leading to soil degradation as well as it is leading to water pollution, environmental concerns. For example, as per the report from FAO and UNCCD Global Land Outlook report, it says that in land under degradation in India is almost 96.4 million hectare, and it's 29.3% of India's total geographical area, which is under the land degradation. And one of the important reason for that is the increased use of fertilizer that we are doing. Apart from that, if you look into this map also, which is from the ISRO, there also they have shown some of the area which is under the desertification, and it says that almost 30% of India is under the desertification as per the land degradation map for 2018-19. And some of the significant reason for this is the unsustainable practices that we are following in the agriculture. Then the financial burden on the government, that this high fertilizer use is further straining the resources of the government, that we have consistently more than 1.5 1.6 lakh crore for the fertilizer subsidy itself, which is leading to the fiscal slippage, or where it is the government is finding it difficult to maintain the fiscal deficit targets because of this increased burden that they have to bear related to the fertilizer subsidy. Also, the lack of targeting. As of now in India, almost 85% to 86% of farmers are small and marginal as per the economic survey, as per the Ministry of Agriculture. But what we have witnessed through various media reports, that majority of these fertilizers are being utilized, are being used by the particular big farmers only, and these small farmers find it very difficult to get access to these fertilizers. Also, the lack of proper supply. For example, if you look into this report that came in the Indian Express itself, that before the Rabi crop season, there was a very significant shortage of DAP, which is a significant fertilizer which is used in the Rabi crops production itself. Because of this lack of proper supply, also because of the canalization etc. that happens in the supply chain, it creates the issue of the supply. Then the highly skewed fertilizer used towards the urea, that is again another major issue with the fertilizer subsidy regime. Now, another important thing that you need to understand with regard to this particular topic, that what are the recent government initiatives to address this issue of overuse of the fertilizers. And these initiatives are going to be very important, especially for the people who are going to appear in this year prelims examination, as well as the people who are going to appear next year. Because generally we have seen whatever the recent updates are there, whatever the recent initiatives government has taken, especially related to the agriculture and other social sectors, there are high chances that there will be some questions related to that in the prelims examination. For example, government has shifted towards the urea gold, which is the sulfur coated urea. Initially, what was happening, that when we were using urea, normal urea, it was further being channelized towards the industrial use. On one hand, government was providing subsidy on these fertilizers that they can be used in the agriculture sector, where it was being channelized, where it was being further diverted towards the use in the industrial sector. And to address that, government came with the neem coated urea, where neem oil or neem cakes were used to coat the urea granules that are there. What are the benefits that it was serving? It was leading to slow release of urea in the soil, which was leading to increased efficient use of these fertilizers. And these neem cakes which was being used, that was also providing some cushion or safety with regard to the pests etc. that were disturbing that particular crop. But there was one major issue with the neem coated urea. And what was that issue? That is the availability and proper supply of that neem cakes or neem oils. To address that, government came with this urea gold or sulfur coated urea, which is further leading to various benefits. For example, it is also leading to slow release of urea in the soil, which will lead to increased efficient use of these fertilizers. It will also decline the input cost that farmers have to bear for the fertilizers etc. And it will also lead to decreased voltization, that is the urea that will be converted into gaseous form, because the particular solid substance, when it gets converted into gaseous form, that is the process of voltization. So here, when this sulfur coated urea will further diminish that particular voltization process or decrease the voltization, which will further lead to increased availability of urea for the plants. Now this urea gold have 37% of nitrogen content and 17% of sulfur blend, and it aims to boost the crop yields, as well as it is going to improve the quality of the particular products, the farm products which are coming. It also promises better harvest, lower cost, and promises a brighter future for the farmers. And it is coming in convenient packaging of the 4 kilogram bags, and a fixed price is, that is 266.50 per kg. Another important initiative is One Nation One Fertilizer, which is coming under the single brand Bharat, which will be used for all type of major fertilizers to be sold in the country. That will lead to improper standardization of these fertilizers, and farmer will not get confused that what is the one brand that he or she should go for. Then another major initiative is the soil health card. which gives us details of various soil parameters like pH, organic carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium levels in the soil, which is under the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, and it is a centrally sponsored scheme. The objective is to assess the soil health every 2 years, the potential statement for your prelims examination, that whether these soil health cards are available every year, every 6 months or every 2 years. You have to tick the option every 2 years, and this was launched in 2015, and it will give us an idea about the site specific nutrient management, which will reduce the excessive fertilizer use, and we will be able to rationalize the fertilizer uses. So when farmer will get an idea that they have the sufficient nutrient component related to nitrogen in their soil, so why will they go for using the urea when they have the sufficient nitrogen component in their soil? Similarly, government came with this nano urea fertilizer, which that this 50 kg of bag is equal to this 500 ml of nano urea, which will further reduce the input cost of the farmers. Farmer will be able to save some input cost that they have to earlier incur for the fertilizers. It will be environmental friendly because leaching etc. can be addressed well. It will also improve the nutritional value of the soil, and it will increase the farmers income as well as the crop productivity will be increased, and it is cheaper than the conventional urea. So a significant amount of urea bags which was being used earlier will be reduced with this nano urea fertilizer. Then again, the cabinet has also approved the nutrient based subsidy rates for phosphatic and potassic fertilizers for Rabi seasons. Here the government has allowed the sugar mill to sell the potash which has been made from the molasses which is coming from the sugarcane. So again, one of the byproduct of sugarcane industries is the molasses which comes out. Now from this molasses we can make some potash. So this potash will also be covered under this nutrient based subsidy. That is again one of the initiatives that government has taken. Then another important scheme is the PM Pranam scheme, that program for restoration, awareness generation and nourishment and amelioration of Mother Earth. That it is further focusing on reduced use of chemical fertilizers and the promotion of the organic and the natural farming, as well as the alternate use of the fertilizers. It is being promoted under the PM Pranam scheme. Then the government is also promoting the organic farming with the help of Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana, where there has been a total outlay of 1576.65 crore for 2021. Here there has been various clusters that are being developed for the organic farming. A dedicated online web portal will be created to encourage farmers to directly sell their organic products to the consumers. This is one of the prelims question which was asked in the 2020 examination. With reference to chemical fertilizers in India, consider the following statement. These are the 3 statements that are given. You people tell me in the comment box that what should be the answer of this particular question which was asked in the 2020 prelims examination. Then what should be done to ensure that we are on the sustainable path of the agriculture? The first, there is need for reforms in the subsidy distribution. That we need to understand that the small and marginal farmers who are the people who are in actual needs of these subsidies, we should ensure that these subsidies are going towards these farmers. Also, we need to encourage the balanced fertilizers use, and for that the soil health card like schemes needs to promote it at broader level, so that farmer can be made aware about the importance of the less fertilizer use and the reduction that he will see in the input cost that he is going to incur. Also, there is need for subsidy for non-urea fertilizers, the other fertilizers which are being provided. There is need for more rationalization of these non-urea based fertilizers which government is providing under the nutrient based subsidies, that government can promote to some organic fertilizers also as a matter of one resort towards the sustainability towards the agricultures. And there is need for better fertilizer application technologies. For example, the nano urea etc. needs to be promoted. For example, the drip irrigation, whenever we talk about the precision farming, so we are using the drip irrigation. So similarly, the fertigation process can be used, where with the irrigation we are supplying the fertilizers also according to the needs of the plants, which can further lead to increased efficient use of these fertilizers, and that can further reduce the input cost that farmer have to incur on the inputs, that we are using some newer technologies for the better use of or inefficient use of the fertilizers on the farm. Also, we need to promote the organic and the biofertilizers as an alternative to the chemical fertilizers that will lead to a broad-based solutions. For example, it will help us in addressing the environmental concerns, soil degradation concerns. It will also help us in doubling the farmers' income, which was one of the major focus area as recommended by the Ashok Dalwai committee. A mains practice question that you people can write from this topic is the discuss the key issues in India's fertilizer subsidy system and suggest measures to address them. Then our second topic is tackling the TB burden in India. The context of this topic is that state of Meghalaya has ramped up the TB detection with focus on the examination of the TB patients. And this particular topic pertains to syllabus of your GS paper 2, health, government policies and interventions. So let's try to first look into some basics of the tuberculosis. It is a bacterial disease which is caused by the Mycobacterium tuberculosis. And the transmission of this tuberculosis happens with the airborne infection, especially the people who are infected when they spreads with the close contact with of the other persons. When the infected person gets into close contact with other person in the form of sneezing, saliva, etc., then that can lead to transmission of this bacteria, as well as it can cause the tuberculosis to other person also. Treatment of this tuberculosis, this is a curable disease, and the 6 months course is there for with the help of 4 antimicrobial drugs or antibacterial drugs that we involve for treatment of this tuberculosis. Some of the symptoms of the tuberculosis includes cough, fever and significant weight loss, and it mainly affects lungs, but it can also impact various other organs of the body. It is not only limited to the infection in the lungs, but TB can infect other organs of our body. And if you look into this India TB report of 2024, it says that estimated TB cases in India are almost 27.8 lakh cases, and the mortality with the TB is around 3.2 lakh. That despite being a curable disease, TB is a significant disease which is leading to mortality in India because of the negligence that we witness in the case of the TB among the Indian population. So what are the various challenges in eliminating TB in India? First of all, the high burden of TB that India is witnessing. As per this World Health Organization report, that India has the largest number of tuberculosis patients in India, that almost 27% of world's tuberculosis patients are in India itself. And the second important aspect of the challenge is the drug resistance, the multi-drug resistant TB that we are witnessing. That there are some first line antibiotic drugs, antibacterial drugs, antibiotics that we use, the first line antibiotic that we are using. When a particular patient gets resistant to that first line drugs, for example, rifampicin, isoniazid, etc., that we are using, these are the first line antibacterial drugs, antibiotic drugs, which are generally used in the initial phases of the treatment of the TB patients. But when the particular TB patient is not completely aware, when he is not following all the do's and don'ts which was told by the doctors, when he is not consistent with his medication, that will lead to a drug resistant TB getting developed in the person, and which will be very difficult to get addressed. And this increased cases of drug resistant TB in India is significantly very high. Also, the limited access to the healthcare. As per the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare data, that this is the status of the current health center as well as the recommended health center. That there is drastic difference between the primary healthcare as well as the community healthcare centers. That the number of healthcare centers are not that robust. They are not available significantly as it should be with regard to the population. Also, the stigma and the discrimination that the TB patients are associated with, that it is generally felt that since TB is a contagious disease, we should completely isolate that person from the public. So in this case, this stigma and discrimination further creates a issue that the people who are having the TB, they tries to hide their this particular disease, and which leads to the further amplification of this disease, and it further leads to spread of this disease. So we need to reduce this stigma and the discrimination that are associated with this particular disease. We should understand that this is a curable disease, although we should take all the precautions that we should not get this particular disease, but we should not focus on the isolation of that person, because that person might get depressed and he may find it very difficult to cope up with that disease. Then another important factor is the poor living conditions. That one of the major challenges with the elimination of the TB is the lack of proper hygiene, lack of proper sanitation facilities. That is the proportion of slum households and the poor households in the selected cities. If you look, that you will see in the Delhi, in the Meerut, Kolkata, Indore, Mumbai. Mumbai is one such city where we have lot of slums, where we do not have even the proper basic hygiene facility, where we do not have proper basic amenities like the sanitation, the potable water, etc. In this case, there are high transmission of these TB bacteria we witness. Then the limited awareness that people have, that they do not understand that they have to complete their 6 months of course and they leave this course midway. They do not understand that there are various programs which are being run by the government to address this issue of the tuberculosis. And only when the symptoms subsidize at some level, for example, if a TB patient was having fever, after 15 days of the drug or 1 month of drug use or that medicine use, when the particular symptoms gets mild, that subsidize, then persons leaves the drug because they think that now they are completely fine. And that is the case with due to which we are getting this increased cases of drug resistance TB. So what are various government initiatives which government is looking forward to address this issue of the tuberculosis burden in India? Because government has made a target to eliminate TB in India by 2025. Government has launched a national strategic plan for the tuberculosis, where government is focusing on ensuring the quality diagnosis, treatment and support to every TB patient. The target is to eliminate the tuberculosis by 2025, 5 years before the global target. The WHO global target is to eliminate TB by 2030. Here the target is to eliminate TB by 2025 itself. Also, it provides free of cost diagnosis and treatment facilities, including anti-TB drugs to all TB patients under the revised National Tuberculosis Control Program. And in 2018 it has allocated 12,000 crore and it was further increased. And it is also providing, the most importantly, the 500 per patient per month for the nutritional support to all TB affected patients under this revised National Tuberculosis Control Program, because this 500 per patient per month will help in tackling the nutritional need of the persons, that they will be able to get the fruits or some nutritional cereals, etc., that can help them in tackling that TB, in overcoming that TB in a time-bound manner. Then Pradhan Mantri TB Mukt Bharat Abhiyan, it is providing the nutritional support, increased access to diagnostics and treatment of the tuberculosis. Then the Nikshay Poshan Yojana, which is providing the nutritional support to the TB patient. This is one of the component under the National Strategic Plan, where the incentive is being provided, the 500 rupees per patient incentives that we have talked. And it is also giving the incentive for complete duration of anti-TB treatment to the patient, that if any patient has completed their 6 months course, then some incentive will be provided to them. Also, incentive is going to be distributed with the help of direct benefit transfer, so that the leakages can be addressed well. Also, government has improved this BAPALM regimen, which comprises 4 drugs, that is the bidaquilene, pretomanide, lenozolide, as well as moxifloxacin. Because of this 4 drugs that we are using, all of you should know that I am not from a medical background, so I may not pronounce these drugs properly, so I am very sorry for that. So these 4 drugs that we will be using, it will lead to better outcomes, remarkably shortening the duration of the treatment. And these are the names of some antibiotic drugs which are generally used for the treatment of the tuberculosis. There may be a prelims question with the name of these drugs, that these drugs are used for the treatment of which particular diseases. Now, what should be done? The first important is we need to engage with the private hospitals and the chemists better, that they should be providing all the facilities which are needed by the TB patient, that is the drugs, that is the information, etc., in a proper manner to these patients. And there should be a proper tracking of these persons so that they can complete their drug schedule properly. Also, there is need for leveraging the contact with the rural medical practitioners. all of you will be knowing, and most of you who come from the rural background does know that there is lack of proper qualified health practitioners in the rural areas. And in that case, it is the rural medical practitioners, that compounder which is there in your market, which is serving the needs, which is fulfilling the needs of every patient. So in that case, if these medical practitioners, these compounders in the rural market, if they will be provided with the sufficient information related to TB, we can tackle the TB in a better way. Also, there is need for effective implementation of the ongoing programs that are there. For example, the Nikshay Poshan Yojana or Pradhan Mantri TB Mukt Bharat. We need to ensure that there is a proper oversight mechanism that can help in effective implementation of these programs. Also, we need to invest in the research and development so that a better drugs can be developed. For example, as of now, we are only contributing 0.6 to 0.7% of our GDP for the particular research and development. We need to increase that so that we can further improve the particular situation in the medical health sector. So we need to invest in the research and development, which will lead to a better drugs, and that can help us in tackling the TB properly. And there is also need for awareness generation among the society at large, that there should not be stigma and discrimination associated with the drug. Also, there should not be, these persons should be made aware, especially the patient, that they should complete their targets, they should complete their drugs properly. And with this only, we will be able to fulfill this dream of TB Mukt Bharat, where we have focused on TB Harega and the Desh Jeetega, that is the National Tuberculosis Elimination Program. Main idea is all about. A mains practice question from this topic is this particular question, that is, discuss the various challenges associated with TB eradication in India and list some of the government measures adopted by the government of India to end TB by 2025. Please try to write this question. In our simplified section, first topic is, why is uploading voting data a challenge? This particular topic pertains to syllabus of your GS paper 2 elections, and this has appeared in today's The Hindu, page number 13. So the context is that in May 24, in the middle of the Lok Sabha elections, that is the 18th Lok Sabha, the Supreme Court of India considered a petition by the Association of Democratic Reforms, that is ADR, seeking the publication of the first part of Form 17C, which includes the booth-wise voter turnout data on the Election Commission of India website within the 48 hours of polling. But the Election Commission of India refused, saying that it was only legally mandated to share this form with the polling agents representing the each electoral candidates and not with the general public or with the media. A year later, after the opposition outrage at the alleged discrepancy in the voter turnout and vote counts in multiple assembly elections, the Election Commission has told the top court that it is prepared to meet with the ADR and fellow petitioner, and signaling that the new Chief Commissioner Gyanesh Kumar is ready and willing to hear their demand that they will be publishing their data. Now, what exactly is this Form 17C and Form 17A? So, as per the Conduct of Elections Rules 1961, there were two forms that needs to be submitted, that needs to be filled during the process of the elections. That is Form 17A, which have the register of the voters. The polling officials record the details of every voter who comes into the booth and signs the register. Okay? There is a register that will be kept on each polling booth. Then we have the Form 17C. Now, it will have all the accounts of the votes which are recorded. It will have the identification numbers of each electronic voting machines that are there, total number of electors that are assigned to the polling station, total number of voters as entered in the registers for voters, that is Form 17A. What does the difference between two is there? But there can be a case that there may be a person who may have come to that polling booth. He may have signed that particular register, but he may not have contested his or her vote. He may not have casted his or her vote. Not contested, he may not have casted his or her vote. In that case, this Form 17C will give us an idea whether particular person have given his or her vote or not, whether particular person had casted the vote or not. So it gives us an idea about the number of voters who decided not to record their votes after signing the register. Also, Form 17C gives us an idea about number of voters who were not allowed to vote, total number of test votes to be deducted, and total number of votes recorded as per the electronic voting machine. Now, in this Form 17C, we have this part 1, which is filled by the polling agent, polling officers on that polling booth on the day of the poll. And then we have the part 2 of this Form 17C, which have this part 2 of the same carries the result of the counting. On the day of the results, whatever the results that is coming after pressing the result button on each EVM, that people who are involved, the officers who are involved in the calculation, in the counting of the votes, they will give or they will enter the data on the counting day. So the part 1 will be filled on the day of the voting, part 2 will be filled on the day of counting. If there is a mismatch between the part 1 and part 2, it means that there are some discrepancy that is going on. So what the particular issue that is going on, that there has been delay in giving the data about the voter turnouts. And because of this delay, the opposition parties has alleged that there are discrepancy. Also, there has been some reports that the number of votes that were counted, the number of votes that were casted by the people, as well as the number of results that came, that is on the day of the counting, the result which is coming, and the number of casted votes that are coming on the day of the polling, that there is difference between two. Now, what is the particular logic given by the Election Commission? That there are some mock polls which are done in the case of the before starting the particular poll on that particular polling booth. So before that starting the poll, whatever the mock polls that are done on the EVM machines, they are not to check that whether those EVM are doing fine or not, they are running fine or not. But in some cases, because of lack of proper education, lack of proper knowledge, these polling officials doesn't make them zero, that all the mock polls are also counted along with the polls that are contested by the normal public. So the logic given by the Election Commission, that is one of the reason why we have the discrepancy between the actual number of results which are coming as well as the number of votes that was casted on the day of the polling. Another particular thing is that the EC has told that the indiscriminate disclosure of the data could create chaos. That it says that the images of the Form 17C that will be published online can be morphed, and it can lead to widespread discomfort in the society. Also, the postal ballots are not included in the Form 17C. This is one of the most important information that you need to remember for your prelims examination. Also, poll body has argued that it was not obligated to hand over the form to anyone but the polling agents as per this rules, that is Conduct of Election Rules 1961, which has emanated out of Representation of People's Act. Also, that there are about 1 crore poll workers involved in the conduction of the national elections in India. Many are not well educated and they are under extreme stress with all kind of pressures being put on them at the polling station. So they may commit blunders in machines, while handling that EVM machines, or while writing the information or submitting the information under the Form 17A, as well as in the Form 17C. Also, the former Chief Election Commissioner says that copies of the Form 17C are sent overnight to the returning officer headquarters, and the next day the election observer camps out and verifies the data recorded in part 1 with the presiding officer's diary and other documents, as well as the video recording of the polling station. So this verification which is done by the election observers may also take time, and that is also one of the reasons why we may have some delay in the final voter turnout data. But Mr. Rawat has also, the former Chief Election Commissioner, has said that political parties can collect Form 17Cs from their polling agents and publish them if they wish, if they want. And mistakes will lead to the disciplinary action against the poll workers who were under stress and do not deserve it. And polling agents will take flag from them next time. And that is why they want to pull the ball in the Election Commissioner's court. That is, that if there are some discrepancy, some blunders which was done by the particular poll worker, poll officer, then that should have been highlighted by the polling agent itself. But the problem is that since that poll worker was already under the stress, he did blunder. But these polling agents are also not well educated. They are also not well aware about various nitty-gritties. And that is the reason these political parties are not motivating these polling agents to highlight this issue, because these agents do not have that knowledge, and that these political parties are just trying to shift the balls in the election commissioner's court. This is what has been said by the former chief election commissioner. So our next topic is, how do astronauts recoup after the space stay? This particular topic is related to your GS paper 3 space technology, and this has appeared in today's The Hindu page number 13. So the context is that on March 19, a SpaceX capsule bearing various astronauts, specifically Mrs. Sunita Williams and Barry Wilmore, splashed down in the Gulf of Mexico, and these 4 people were returning from the International Space Station, and majorly Mrs. Williams and Mr. Wilmore were wrapping up a 9-month stay on the International Space Station. Initially they have gone for a small period, but due to some malfunction technical issue in the Starliner with which they went, they have to extend their stay on the International Space Station. And this particular microgravity which they are subjected to in the space station leads to various issues in the body, and that is the reason when they has been brought back on the earth, there is need for proper support that needs to be provided, and that is being provided to them, so that they can get accustomed to the normal gravity conditions on the earth. And these microgravity which the people are subjected to in the International Space Station, this affects the body in many ways, including the fluids to flow more easily towards the brain, and reducing the muscle tension and lowering the bone density. And that is the reason astronauts has to maintain a strict routine of the exercise and the diets on board the International Space Station. Also, we do not have much idea what is the impact of this microgravity because of the lack of spacefaring individuals, that is the people who have visited the space. That is still relatively small, and that is the reason we do not have a sufficient idea that what is its impact on the different age groups, what is its impact on women as compared to men. Also, there are indications that extended space flights can affect the parts of male and female bodies differently, and we are still doing research on this. And how are the astronauts monitored in the space? There is in NASA Office of Chief Health and Medical Officers, they have released the revised standards from ground itself. They keeps on monitoring the blood pressure, the blood related issues of all the people that are there in the space. And they are also screened for the deep vein thrombosis and blood flow anomalies, as well as the after the launch, as well as after the 40 days before the return flight. This thrombosis is a particular case where blood gets clotted. So all these particular things are checked in the space station itself. And how are these astronauts rehabilitated post the flights? The post-flight reconditioning happen, which is unique for each astronaut as per his or her medical conditions. They may be provided some physiotherapy to relax their muscles, to get ensure that their bones, muscles, etc. get accustomed to the gravity conditions of the earth, etc. Also, the physical therapy, the crew surgeon, flight surgeon and physiotherapy may assess the need for a massage therapy for crew members, etc. And in the subsequent week after they have returned, the crew members undergo physical reconditioning exercise for 2 hours every day, warm-up exercise on elliptical, rowing and bicycle training, and tasked to exercise back and lower limbs and to improve improve gait and stretching. And in the week after, exercises expand to include jogging, playing ball games in water, so that they can be their body gets proper routine to the normal human life. Now this mission, due to which these people, Mrs. Williams and Wilmore, got stuck, was conducted by this Boeing Starliner, and they were mainly went to do various space-based experiments to impact the impact of the outer space on human bodies. Those were the one of the experiment basis for which this Boeing Starliner went, and this is the typical picture of a Boeing Starliner which went to the International Space Station. Then if you if you talk about this International Space Station, what is this? It is the largest modular space station in low Earth orbit. orbit, and it is also the largest human-made structure in the space. It was launched on 20 November 1988 from Kazakhstan, and it is expected to operate till 2030, and it orbits low Earth orbit of the Earth at an average altitude of 400 km and circles the globe every 90 to 93 minutes, and it almost weighs 450 tons. And there are various agencies involved, be it USA's NASA, Europe's ESA, Japan's JAXA, Roscosmos of Russia, or the Canada. There are various components. That station is divided into two sections: the Russian orbital segment, which is operated by the Russia, and then United States orbital segment, which is run by the United States and other countries. And majorly it serves as a microgravity and space environment research laboratory, and that is the reason that these people went to test these experiments, that what is the impact of microgravity. And if we talk about the India's mission related to the space station, India plans to have own space station by 2035, which would weigh around 20 ton, and it would orbit an altitude of 4 km above the Earth, where astronauts could stay for 15 to 20 days. And NASA and ISRO to launch a joint mission to ISS in 2024. They were expected to launch. Next topic is Tavasya, the fourth Krivak class stealth frigate, which has been launched into water. And this particular topic pertains to syllabus of your GS paper 3 defense, and this has appeared in today's The Hindu, page number 8. So you will often hear different class of frigates or submarines. So generally we categorize these classes based on the propulsion system that they are using, whether they are nuclear powered, where there is nuclear propulsion system, or they are diesel electrical powered. So the propulsion system that they are using, generally this helps in categorization of different classes of the submarine. That is the one of the main basis on which we categorize various classes of these submarines, apart from the origin of these particular submarines, that with whom we are building this particular classes of the submarines is also one basis based on which we categorize. For example, Krivak class we are building with the help of Russia. Transfer of technology has been done by the Russia, especially to realize our Make in India program. So the context is last of 4 follow-on Krivak class stealth frigates contracted from Russia, and second one under the construction at Goa Shipyard Limited, with the technology transfer was launched into water on Saturday by Mrs. Neeta Seth in the presence of Union Minister of State for Defence Sanjay Seth. And the first of 2 frigates were named Triput. It was launched in July last year, that is 24. And as per the schedule, the Goa Shipyard Limited is set to deliver the first ship to Navy in 2026, and the second will be given to Navy 6 months later. And in October 2016, India and Russia signed an intergovernmental agreement for 4 additional follow-on stealth frigates, under which 2 were to be directly imported and 2 were to be manufactured by Goa Shipyard Limited under the technology transfer. And the first of 2 ships that are manufactured in Russia are INS Tushil, which was commissioned on December 1924 at Kaliningrad in Russia, and it has since reached its home port in Karvar on February 14. And the second frigate is Tamal, INS Tamal, which is in advanced trial and is expected to be commissioned in June. And this is a picture of various submarines that you can remember, and you can expect one prelims question from this particular picture in your prelims examination. Then another topic is the Jnanpith Award. This particular topic is related to your GS paper 1 art and literature, and this has appeared in today's The Hindu, page number 1. So Mr. Vinod Kumar Shukla has been conferred the Jnanpith Award, and he is the 12th Hindi writer and the first from Chhattisgarh to receive this Jnanpith Award, which is the India's highest literary honor. And the award carries a cash reward of 11 lakh rupees and a bronze statue of goddess Saraswati. And these are some of the books which has been written by Mr. Vinod Kumar Shukla. And this is the picture of the Jnanpith Award, that how exactly it looks. Apart from that, this Jnanpith Award was established in 1961 by this institute named Bharatiya Jnanpith, and the purpose is to recognize the exceptional literary contribution in Indian languages which are there in 8th schedule apart from the English. And the prize that we have discussed, the 11 lakh cash as well as the bronze statue of goddess Saraswati. And it is not going to be conferred posthumously. That is one of the important thing that you need to remember. And if you talk about the Bharatiya Jnanpith, it was founded in 1944 by Sahu Santi Prasad Jain. Objective of this institution is to conduct research and publish rare, extant and unpublished work, encourage creation of original literature for the people, and it has a status of premier literary organization in India. Various activities, for example, awards, publication, fellowships and research are done by the Bharatiya Jnanpith, and it has network which connects author across the generation and Indian languages. Our next topic is the initial public offering or IPO, which is related to your GS paper 3 capital market, and this has appeared in today's The Hindu page number 11. So context is that in a fast growing economy like India where inflation is entrenched, what could be worse than keeping your cash idle and not earning anything on it? Answer is investing in all the bank IPOs in the country over the last decade. But the abysmal long-term performance of many banking stocks is back in focus after market witnessed the IndusInd Bank plummet over 30% in last couple of weeks, and it is its deepest cut in 20 years, and bank is now trading at levels that was last seen in October 2014. And if you ignore the COVID dip, while Nifty Bank has returned 10% compounded in the last decade, it's negative 3% in the case of IndusInd. And the same is true for nearly smaller private bank that listed in last decade, that is the likes of IDFC First Bank, Bandhan Bank, RBL Bank, and even smaller ones like Small Finance Bank. What exactly the IPO means and what the particular news is talking about, let's try to understand that properly. So let's suppose there is a company with the name ABC Limited. Now this was the case that this 100% ownership was with the company itself. There are few promoters, there are few owners who are holding 100% ownership of this company. Now this company is in need of funds, they need money. They have two route. One is the debt route and second is the equity route. Under the debt route, they can issue the bonds, okay, or the company can take loans from the banks or any other financial institutions, but they will have a liability to pay this debt in future. And the second particular method or the option that they have, that they can go with the equity route. In the equity route, what they can do, that they can dilute some part of their ownership, and based on that they can get the money which can fulfill their capital needs. So instead of holding 100% ownership with them, let's suppose they said we will dilute 10% of our ownership and will make this available to the normal public and will get listed on the stock exchange. So the first time where the company issues securities is called as the initial public offering or the IPO. And in this particular IPO market, prices are fixed and it is issued at par value. So this is the case of primary market where company is selling shares to the investors and investor is giving this money to the company in lieu of these shares which are being provided to the company. So this is also called as the new issue market. Then we have the secondary market, which is the after issue market, that the first instance where this particular share was made available with the help of IPO. Now this is listed on the stock exchange. Now this is part of the secondary market, which is called as the after issue market. Here the investor trade their second hand securities. This particular investor which got these shares, now it is going to trade their second hand securities. They are going to share their trade their second hand securities, or we can say that different investors buy and sell their securities in this particular stock exchange, and this is the case of the secondary market. And the price in the secondary markets are going to be decided based on the demand and supply of these shares. They are going to be decided based on the policies that government is taking for that particular sector. Okay? So what particular thing that we have seen, that whenever the government is any company wants to come with their IPO, they have to file their papers with the SEBI. Okay, and they have to give all the details, that for what purpose that money is being raised, that capital is being raised, how they will use. They have to tell all the details related to the liabilities of the company, etc. So a particular date is fixed on which these IPO will be available to the investors, and the people who wants to invest in that company, they can subscribe to that IPO. and after the closing of that subscription period of that IPO, that stock of the company, shares of that company will be listed on the stock exchange, and then they will be traded on the stock exchange as they have become the part of the secondary market after getting listed on the stock exchange. So what this particular news item was saying, that what we have seen, that these IPOs which these banks has come, especially the private banks, initially they have given a good return on the day of the listing, that there has been a significant increase in the prices of the stocks on the day of the listing. But after few months, generally we have seen that there has been the returns has turned to be negative because of various corporate governance related issues, various regulatory changes, etc. The returns on the stocks of these companies has turned to be negative. That was all for the IPO, and that is all from today's session. Thank you very much for joining this session. Thank you very much for listening this session. All the very best. Keep studying.